Hi there, this is Oliver from Sidebar. In this video I'm going to show you some basic settings that are important for Sidebar. Let's assume you have already completed the onboarding process and end up with a setup like this. In here we have 3 applications running, which is the calculator, 1 Finder window and 2 Safari windows. If you have a look at Sidebar now, you can see that there are 3 applications running in there. So let's open up the settings. The settings are divided into different tabs, each of which serves a different purpose. In the general section here, one of the most important settings is the option to hide the macOS dock. If you enable this will basically automatically hide the standard macOS dock and only bring it up in certain situations where you cannot really force to hide it, which is, for instance, the launchpad or mission control. Another important option here is the launch at login setting. If enabled, Sidebar will automatically start when your system starts up. This might be handy, especially if you hide the dock, because as otherwise you end up without the dock and without Sidebar. So you would need to manually start Sidebar using Spotlight or anything. All right, then let's have a look at the Behavior tab here. The Behavior tab, one of the most important settings here, is most likely the overlapping prevention part. The overlapping prevention is that Sidebar keeps its app area free of other apps. So let's disable this for a short moment. And what I can do now is just maximize here this window. And as you can see, the application window is overlapping with Sidebar. This might be inconvenient because now if you use Sidebar, you will always have this app window covering its area around here. If you enable this setting, you can see that Sidebar will automatically make sure to resize this window so that it doesn't overlap with Sidebar. Again, I'm going to maximize it. And it's sizing the window back. There's also the setting for a resize margin. This is the space between the window and Sidebar that will be kept free. Most likely it's enough to enable the standard overlapping prevention here, as the strict overlapping prevention is just addition on top of that, which will always force Sidebar to keep its area free. If I disable this setting here for a moment, you can see what I can do is basically resize or move this window beneath Sidebar for a short period of time, just because I want to move my application window a little bit down to access something behind this application window, for instance. This doesn't work with the strict overlapping prevention because this will always make sure that the area remains free, even if I just shortly move it down there. All right. Next is the Applications tab, and also this is one of the most important ones in the whole Sidebar settings. In here, you have on the one hand the preview settings. The preview settings are the application previews. So if you hover here, the application icons, those are the previews, the application previews basically. If you want to use this feature, make sure that this is enabled, because if I disable the setting here, I will just get the name of the application, but no preview is generated. The second most important setting here is this live preview setting. As you can see right now, this is disabled. So this is just a static screenshot. If I enable this now, you won't see much of a difference. Other than if I hover, for instance, the Safari icon, you can see at the top left of the Safari icon, there's now this purple screen sharing indicator. This is because macOS now detects that Sidebar is actively capturing this application window and showing a live feed here in the previews. So if you are playing something, and I'm gonna go here on the Mac App Store for a bit. so that you can see that this is actually a live content. You can see that this is a video stream here. And this is also why you can, why macOS will display this purple indicator at the top. If I disable the live previews now, I will just get a static screenshot, but on the other hand, I don't have this purple screen recording indicator at the top left of the application window. So if you mind this icon up there, then make sure to disable the setting. Then we have a look at the application display preferences. And those preferences are really important when it comes down what applications are displayed in Sidebar. So the first setting, and I'm going to cover every single one here because all of them are important. The first setting here is that we are limiting applications to active spaces. As you can see here now, we just have one space running here, and this is the active one. Let's create another space. All right, and let's move the calculator app over there. So this setting is disabled now, and you can see I can access the calculator app from this space, even though it's located on the other space right now. If I click on the calculator app, this will initiate a space switch to the other space, and you can see here is only the calculator. And clicking on Finder, for instance, brings me back to the other space. If I enable this setting, this will remove calculator because calculator here is right now in an inactive space. Now there's no way to access calculator from this space, but if I switch over to the other space, it will only show me the calculator app, basically. All right, give this up. The next one is that applications are only visible on their active screen. That's a bit tricky now because I just have one screen for this demo, but if you have two physical displays, this setting can be important because what it does is it will only show applications on that screen where there is an active application window. So for instance, let's assume we have here, we have two screens, and the left side of my screen right now is the first screen and the right side here is the second screen. So if I enable this setting now, this would mean that for Sidebar on this screen, I will see the calculator app, but I won't see it on this screen because this has no application window on the first screen and just on the second screen, and vice versa. So for Safari, I wouldn't see Safari on this screen, but I only see it on this screen. If I disable the setting, I see all applications regardless on which screen they are currently active on. The next one is, you can use Sidebar not on all screens at the same time. So for instance, if you have 2 or 3 screens and only use Sidebar on one of them, by default, or if this setting is enabled, you won't see applications that are located on a screen without Sidebar. So for instance, again, on this screen on the left side, I have Sidebar enabled, and of course I will see Safari. On the screen on the right side, over here, I have the calculator app. If this setting is disabled now, what I wouldn't see is the calculator app, basically, because the calculator app is located on a screen without Sidebar, and the Sidebar on this screen here won't show it because this setting is disabled. If I enable the setting again, I would see the calculator app, even if it's located on a screen without Sidebar, on the screen here with Sidebar. The next one is the show full screen applications, and we can also try this one because if I, for instance, maximize my Finder window here, this will open Finder in a new space, and you can see Sidebar automatically hides because it detects that Finder is now running in a full screen space. Let's switch back to the regular desktop, and you can see Finder is gone here because Finder now is a full screen application and this setting here is disabled. So let's enable it here for a short try. As soon as this is enabled, you can see Finder is back. And once I click on it, this will initiate the screen space switch to the full screen Finder screen, basically. And let's go back, or let's minimize this here. And let's disable the setting again. The next one is a bit a tricky one because this will show applications without any windows. You can see Safari is running here with 2 windows. I'm going to close the first one. I'm going to close the second one. And Safari is still running, but it's not visible on Sidebar because Safari is running, but without an application window. And show applications with no windows here is disabled. So if I enable this here, I can see that both Finder and Safari is currently running, but without an application window. That's the difference here. And if I click on that on Safari, for instance, while the setting is active, this will bring up a new Safari window. And the last setting here is to only show pinned applications. If I enable this setting right now, this will remove all applications because at the moment no application is pinned. So I could have just left Finder in a pinned state here because now Finder is pinned, and pinning an application just means that the application will remain visible in Sidebar even though it's currently not running. So if I turn the setting on right now, I can only see Finder because Finder is pinned, and this is the only pinned application. The advantage of turning on this feature, this will effectively turn Sidebar into a application launcher. Because you only see applications that you manually pinned here, and you don't necessarily see all applications, for instance, the calculator up here. So let's disable this for a second. And the other things are important, but not just basic settings, I would say. Let's head over to the screens and style settings here. And I really do get a lot of questions for some basic styling settings, and this is also why I really want to cover this part in a separate video. So I'm going to skip the screens and style section for now. I just want to mention one thing. Everything you've seen so far in the other settings, in the general settings, in the application setting, and so on, are global settings. So this affects all Sidebar instances across all screens that are using that you're using and Sidebar is running on. If you decide, for instance, to use Sidebar on all screens, you can decide if you want to use the same style, the same like optical design of Sidebar across all the screens. So you will only have to configure your styling setting once. Or if you want to style each Sidebar individually. This has some advantages because, for instance, you could set it up on the left screen that Sidebar is located on the left screen side, and you could set it up that Sidebar is on your main screen at the bottom. So not every screen should or must use the same style if you disable the setting here. And this is the big difference because the styling settings are screen specific. Of course, if you use the same style across all screens here, every change to a styling setting will affect all screens. But most people tend to disable this here, and then you will actually get a screen selection for which of your screens you want to change the styling settings, and then all those styling settings in here become screen specific, which means that those are not global settings anymore. And this is a big difference to all other options that we had a look at so far. And as I said, I'm going to cover the screens and size section here in a separate video because there are really a lot of styling settings and we are going to have a look at all of them. The next category in here is the shortcuts. I think the most important one here is the application lists shortcut. This is by default Command G. So if you press the shortcut, you can see that this opens the application launcher in Sidebar. And you can have a look at all the applications on your system and start them up and access some of the basic functionalities here, for instance, the sidebar settings or the activity monitor or the terminal and so on. Other than this, I think everything else is a bit more advanced here, so I'm going to skip it for now. Also in the expert settings, the window snapping and the accessibility features are not really basic features that everyone should have a look at. Of course, I would recommend you to have a look at all the settings because there's really a lot of customization available in Sidebar. And but for now, I think I've covered the most basic settings, except for the styling settings, of course. But I'm going to link the video for the styling settings in the caption of this one. Thank you for watching.